please remain standing for the singing of O Canada.
Color party. Flag the color. Color party. Last word. With the vision, ribbon party.
Thank the Cardston High School band and their conductor, Dr. Grant Cahoon, for playing the prelude music and also for the playing O Canada. And to thank Jill Henninger, our bagpiper, for leading in the encore. We'd like to recognize the following: our MLA, Grant Hunter, the Cardston County Reeve, Jim Bester, and his counselors, the Mayor of Cardston and Town's councilors, members of the Legion Honor Guard, veterans, members of the military, members of the RCMP, members of the Canadian Border Services Agency, members of Correctional Service Canada, members of Emergency Services, Scouts and Guides, citizens of Cardston and the county, and invited guests and friends. I guess you could say that I was a war baby. I was born in 1939 and grew up with a bomb shelter in my front room and an anti-aircraft gun in the alley beside us. So it was an interesting time, and things progressed favorably from there. We will now have an intermediate song, Let Us Walk in Peace, by Patsy Ford Sims. This will be directed by Linda Briarwell and accompanied by Laurie Williams. We will then have the invocation by Reverend Glenn Wirt from the St. Andrews United Church. We'll then have an intermediate song, One Candle, by Andy Beck and Brian Fisher. This will be by the CES Remembrance Day Choir, directed by Linda Burwell and accompanied by Laurie Williams. We'll then hear from our Mayor, Maggie Broman, and then we will have an intermediate song, Anna Ma Amen, by Sean Ivory and Paul Caldwell. This will be sung by the Cardston Girls Choir, directed by Leslie Disman, accompanied by Chris Disman with violinist Melody Bryant. Speaking parts will be by Linda Bechtel, Rachel Bechtel, and Ashman Incanti. We will then have our Remembrance Day speaker, who is Cody Bevins. He's a correctional peace officer with Lethbridge Correctional Center, and he will tell us about the service of his relative Alfred Gales. We'll proceed up to that point.
Good morning. Thank you so much. And your song is really my prayer that I'm going to share with us in a moment. That was absolutely beautiful. I'm Glenda Word, Reverend Glenda Word, the minister at St. Andrews, and I am a child of Yvette. So Lord Word, I thank you, as I always do on this day. That's my dad. I would invite us to join our hearts together in a moment of prayer. Loving God, we gather on this day, war-weary and longing for peace. It starts here, it starts now, with each thought in our head, each prayer in our heart. With each choice we make, each action we take, let us seek to open up to your love, for then we can open up to the possibility of peace. God, we know you take no joy in death. We know you take no joy in our wars, in our battles, in our conflicts. We know that your tears are for all your children, of every land and race, of every time and place. We know that what you want for all creation is life abundant. And so we ask for your wisdom. We ask for your guidance. We ask for your peace, your shalom, your salam. We ask for your hands to guide your creation, for your love to sustain your creation, for your grace to surround your creation, now and forever. Amen.
will give the children a chance to move. Thank you, children. Your message of peace is a wonderful message. Thank you, Councillor Edmund, for recognizing our veterans and all those who have joined with them today to give life and meaning to our November 11th ceremony. As Mayor of the town of Cardston, it is my pleasure to be with you today to commemorate the 2016 Remembrance Day. A day when our communities come together, and many of you are there today. Thank you for coming. It is a time to honor the fallen heroes, our veterans, and all those who serve and presently serve this great country under the Canadian flag. It is a day when we feel gratitude for the men and women in uniform who protect our local communities. It is a day when we need to pause and reflect on the democratic values that we cherish as a Canadian society. It is a day when we need to think on the price of freedom and the heroic human sacrifice given by so many lives for our country and our freedom. Let me illustrate that sacrifice. This past 1st of July 2016 marked the 100th anniversary of the starting of the Battle of the Somme, a major Allied offensive in France during the First World War. On that 1st of July 1916, tragedy struck the 1st Newfoundland Regiment. In less than 30 minutes, an entire regiment was decimated. Out of the total of 801 men, only 80 answered the roll call that day. Today, near Beaumont-Hamel, a majestic elk stands facing east on top of a large granite monolith, a memorial to the courage of the 1st Newfoundland Regiment and the valiant soldiers. The losses of this regiment were part of the 60,000 lives lost on both sides of the battle on this very first day of the Battle of the Somme. That battle will linger for 6 gruesome months, with involvement of 3 divisions of the Canadian Corps, starting August 30th, 1916. These divisions were made of brave Canadian soldiers who enlisted as volunteers in a Canadian Expeditionary Force. At the end of that infamous December 1916, after 6 months of Allied trench warfare, little territory was gained, a mere penetration of 13 kilometers over 47 kilometers of enemy lines. But at an incredible human cost. 20,000 Canadian soldiers lost their lives in the Battle of the Somme. a battle that claimed the lives of 1.2 million Allied and German soldiers in 6 months. A true human tragedy, but from a Canadian military perspective, hard lesson learned as a prelude and in preparation to the Easter 1917 pilgrimage Canadian victory that changed the course of life and of the war. 4 of our local boys fought for freedom on the Battle of the Somme and on the preceding Second Battle of it. May we remember them. Their portraits are right on the front of this pulpit. Private William Gosher, enlisted as a volunteer in Cardston on February 4, 1915, as a sapper with a tunneling company. He fought in the Second Battle of it, survived it, but subsequently lost his life in a counter-offensive on June 2, 1916, 1 month before the Battle of the Somme. He was 23 years old. Lance Corporal Henry Carl Briggs, enlisted as a volunteer in Cardston on February 1, 1915, to serve in the Royal Canadian Regiment. He had some prior military experience with the 13th Canadian Mounted Rifles. He fought in the Second Battle of it, survived it also, but lost his life in the Battle of the Somme on October 8, 1916, while taking the Regina Trench from the enemy. He was 29 years old, leaving behind his wife Louise P. Madison and their young son George Henry Madison Briggs. Sergeant Horace James Devenish of Mountain View enlisted as a volunteer on February 2, 1915 in a Canadian Overseas Expeditionary Force with 3 years of previous experience with the 23rd Alberta Rangers. He fought in the Battle of the Somme first as a private with Lord Strathcona Horse, and then in the cavalry in the Battle of the Somme. He survived that conflict, but died on March 30, 1918, near Vimy, and is buried at the Vimy Memorial. He was 37 years old. Private Cyril Arthur Gooding, enlisted on January 10, 1916, with the 113th Battalion CEF Lethbridge Highlanders, went overseas to England, crossed the Channel, was transferred to the Canadian Infantry Manitoba Regiment, served as a signaller, and fought in the Battle of the Somme at the end of November 1916. He survived, but died a few months later on April 9, 1970, in the Battle of Vimy Ridge. He was 19 years old. May we remember the sacrifice. In 1915, before the departure of the first contingent overseas, Canada's Minister of Militia and Defense, Sam Hughes, told the soldiers, "Some of you will not return, and pray God there be few. For such, not only will their memory be cherished by loved ones near and dear, and by a grateful country, but the soldier going down in the cause of freedom never dies. Immortality is his." On this Remembrance Day, may we in soberness pay a special tribute to all our Canadian fallen heroes who gave the ultimate sacrifice on the foreign fields of battle in the name of freedom and liberty, lest we forget.
entered the gas chambers, singing this very song, proclaiming allegiance to God until their last breath. Eyewitness accounts tell us that the music room crescendoed to silence only as the gas choked the singers. No matter how long he tarries, he will find me waiting. Today we sing Ani Ma Ami out of respect for the faith for which so many millions of children died. Today we sing Ani Ma Ami, knowing that if we join hands and hearts and voices and sing the songs of those who suffer, we will learn that while we can prevent beautiful children, can prevent such atrocities from happening again in our lifetimes. This is why we sing. This is what we believe.
Thank the choir for that moving number. Just give me a second to get my things together here. Mayor Cronin, honored guests, veterans, and all of you who have gathered here today. I'm Officer Cody Bevins, and as many of you know, work at the Lethbridge Correctional Center. I'm the great-great-nephew of Private Alfred Gales, who was killed in action during the Battle of Vimy Ridge in the First World War. I received a phone call from the town of Cardston and was asked if I would speak today about the life of Alfred Gales. And I am deeply honored and to have this privilege. I'd just like to thank the town of Cardston for this opportunity. Also ask that you bear with me as the things I'm about to share are very dear to me. Alfred Marius Gales was the youngest of 7 children belonging to Placide and Marie Gales. Alfred was born on July 9, 1893 in Decazeville, France, and was killed in action April 9, 1917 in Vimy, France. Alfred had 3 older brothers and 3 older sisters. He was the baby of the family. Alfred's father worked in the Decazeville coal mines. It was a hard life with little opportunity, so when Alfred was just 2 years old, his parents decided that they would immigrate to Canada. Placide Gales, Alfred's father, decided the family would homestead in one of the most beautiful parts of Canada, Boundary Creek, Alberta. Growing up in Boundary Creek would have been a boy's playground. Alfred and his brothers loved hunting and fishing around Boundary Creek, and now my son and I enjoy that as well. Alfred also liked to hang out with his good pals, Joe Bangry and Elsie Jenkins. And many of you may be related or know them, but they were a big part of his life growing up. Alfred always enjoyed a good party, and as I read his letters, it sounds like Harrisville around Christmas time was the place to be. In January of 1907, Alfred's mother Marie passed away. Alfred was 13 years old. Alfred's father, Placide, decided to take some of the family to Blairmore, where he could work in the mines. Alfred and his older brother Albert would be left in charge of the homestead and stay in Boundary Creek. War broke out over Europe in 1914, and like so many other Canadian boys, Alfred decided to enlist and set out on his adventure. Alfred enlisted for service in the Canadian Expeditionary Force on April 20th, 1916 at Cardston, Alberta. He joined the 13th Regiment of Canadian Mounted Rifles, a regiment out of Pincher Creek. In a postcard home, Alfred writes, "Hello, Joe. How are you coming these days? I suppose you're busy hanging, or aren't you home? I heard you were back, so I thought I would drop you a line. It's raining here today, so we're having a rest. I'm going to London next month on pass. Wish you were along. Say I seen Jack Lee. He's back from the front. How are you and Albert coming with your girls? Everything is nice here, and there's all kinds of girls. Wish you would drop me a line sometime soon." Alfred arrived in England aboard the SS Olympic on July 5th, 1916, and made his way to Shorncliffe Army Camp. Shortly thereafter, Alfred was transferred to the 1st Regiment of Canadian Mounted Rifles, part of the 3rd Canadian Division, to enter the war. After about 4 months at Shorncliffe, Alfred and the 1st Canadian Mounted Rifles were taken on strength, November 11, 1916, nearing the end of the Battle of the Somme. On December 19, 1916, Alfred writes to Elsie Jenkins, "Miss Elsie Jenkins, dear friend, just a few lines to thank you for sending me those wristlets. It sure was kind of you, and I thank you 1,000 times. I'm glad I still got one real nice girlfriend who still remembers me. Well, I suppose you're in for a big time at Christmas and New Year's. I hope you have a great old time. Is there many dances and parties around Harrisville this winter? I often wish I was there to take in a few, but maybe I will someday, who knows. Well, what's the news out there? I guess it's cold and all kinds of snow, and you and Joe Banger go sleigh riding quite often." I think he was getting a little concerned there. Well, dear friend, I guess I'll wish you all a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, and close as I don't know what to write. The news is scarce just now. Of course, you know the war is still on. Please remember me to the folks and old pals, and kiss Ethel for me, but don't tell Albert about it. Hope you can read my scribbling. I'm in an awful hurry. Your friend till the plank breaks, Alfred Gales. The Canadians had proven their worth and shown on the battlefield to be an elite fighting force. A quote made by then Commander of the Canadian Corps, Sir Julian Byng, he said, "These men are too good to be led by politicians. I don't want imperial officers. I want Canadians who have proved their worth." The Canadians had earned a reputation as fierce fighters due to their performances in the Second Battle of Ypres and the Battle of the Somme. As such, all 4 Canadian divisions were handpicked to take Vimy Ridge. Vimy Ridge was a natural landmass which measured 7 kilometers long and rose 200 feet above the Douai Plain. It was a key to the German defense system. It protected an area of occupied France, where factories were in full production to fuel the German war machine. Since capturing the ridge in October 1914, the Germans had been building and increasing fortifications. To add to the natural strength and dominance of the ridge. By the time of the battle, the Germans had turned the ridge into an impregnable force of steel, barbed wire, and concrete, with deep dugouts to survive heavy shelling. The main assault for the Battle of Vimy Ridge was set for 0530 hours on April 9, 1917. Never before had all 4 divisions of the Canadian Corps assembled together as a unified force, a unified fighting force. Remember, this isn't the first time the Allies had tried to take the ridge. The French and the British had spent 3 years trying to take that position at a cost of more than 200,000 Allied lives. Favorite quote of mine, made by Thucydides, who was a Greek general. He said, "The bravest are surely those who have the clearest vision of what is before them, glory and danger alike, and yet notwithstanding go out to meet it." Vimy Ridge had a reputation of a killing field, responsible for hundreds of thousands of Allied lives. The Canadians knew this, and yet they exclaimed, "We will take the ridge." The week prior to the main assault held a massive artillery barrage in attempts to soften up German positions. To the German soldiers, this week would be known as the Week of Suffering. In the final 5 days leading up to the Battle of Vimy Ridge, more than 1 million shells were fired at key German positions. Alfred's regiment, the 1st Canadian Mounted Rifles, fought with the 3rd Canadian Division. Their position on the battlefield had them attacking the center of the ridge, with their final objective, La Folie-Fontaine. Once reaching their final objective, they were to push north along the ridge with the rest of the Canadian Corps and drive the Germans from Hill 145 and a knoll called the Pitbull, which those 2 positions were the most heavily defended positions on that ridge. German machine gun nests littered the ridge side. Mortars and sniper fire were constant. However, by 0730 hours that morning, 2 hours after the main assault began, the 3rd Canadian Division had reached their final objective and taken it. The 263rd Bavarian Regiment, who fought opposite the 3rd Canadian Division, begin by noting only one man of the 1st Battalion returned from the front line on April 9th. Those 4 Canadian divisions were in complete control of Vimy Ridge in only 4 days. The New York Tribune writes, "No praise of the Canadian achievement can be excessive. Canada has sent across the sea an army greater than Napoleon ever commanded in the field. Of the 100,000 Canadians who stormed Vimy Ridge the morning of April 9, 1917, 7,004 were wounded in battle, with 3,598 killed in action. Alfred was amongst the 3,598 who lost their lives in the battle for Vimy Ridge. Alfred married his Scales lies buried in the Le Chaudier Military Cemetery, which is situated on the outskirts of Vimy, only a few short hours from where he was born. 2 weeks prior to the Battle of Vimy Ridge, Alfred wrote a letter home, and I'd like to read it as it's the last known letter that he wrote. Dated March 23rd, 1917. Dear friend Joe, I received your letter and sure was some glad to hear from you and see you're all well. I can say as much myself at present. I was in the hospital for 3 weeks with mumps, but I'm feeling fine now. I had been out of the trenches for about a month when I went to the hospital, and I was in the hospital for 3 weeks, so I haven't been in the line for about 7 weeks. But I'm not worried very much, for it's a good place to keep away from. We're going in again tomorrow, I think. It's raining here nearly every day, and it's cold. Well, what do you think about the war now? Don't you think we're all doing well lately? I think if I can pull through the next 3 or 4 months, I'll be back for Christmas. Hope so anyway. I bet you had some great old times last winter. I sure miss them old dances. I hear you and Elsie Jenkins are about to commit matrimony. Well, I wish you both the best of luck. I think I'll stick to single life. Well, dear friend, I don't know of anything interesting to tell you. Of course, I could tell you many things, but as our letters are censored, I won't. Hope this finds you all in the best of health. Please remember me to the folks and old pals. And as I wear my poppy today, with its symbol of peace, freedom, liberation, with its symbol of sacrifice, I walk a little taller. I hold my head a little higher, because I am proud to be a Canadian. Thank you.
I'd like to thank all those who helped out with this service so far. We will now have an intermediate song, Be Still My Soul, a choral prelude by Gene Sibelius and James Squirtington. It's done with the Cardston High School Band, directed by Grant Cahoon, and joined by the Cardston Girls Choir, directed by Leslie Disson. We'll then have the Supreme Sacrifice by Cynthia Mellinson, followed by In Flanders Field, which will be done by Troops 7 members, Alex Fox Roper, Brennan Smith, Connor Nelson, Ebner Fox Williams, Kayla Anderson, Cameron Atwood, Noah MacDonald, and Ridge Ingram. That will be followed by The Last Post in Readley, and it will be performed by Jace Folk, Macy Williams, Chelsea Hill. We will then have a salute provided by the 20th Independent Field Battery, RCA Lethbridge, followed by a moment of silence and a placing of the wreaths. Jill Henninger will then lead out the honor guard, and we will finish our services at that point.
World War I. Private Randall C. Booth. Sergeant Henry C. Briggs. Corporal Charles F. Barbent. Private George Cummingsinger. Sergeant Horace J. Devenish. Lieutenant Alexander G. Dower. Private Alfred Gales. Private William Gocher. Private Cyril A. Gooding. Private Arthur C. Jackman. Private William H. Levitt. Private Arthur W. Jensen. Lieutenant Albert C. Mountain Horse. Private John W. Roberts. Private William Sibley. Private Norval A. Sorensen. Lieutenant Sidney W. Thurber. Private William Woodley. World War II. Private Ray Adamson. Leading Aircraftsman George C. Beatty. Leading Aircraftsman Benjamin M. Andrus. Corporal Bernard A. Asplund. Flight Sergeant Mark A. Beezer. Pilot Officer Forrest D. Billingsley. Flight Sergeant Winston W. Blackmore. Gunner Walter R. Bowie. Sergeant First Class Melvin G. Baraka. Sergeant Elvin M. Bunich. Flight Officer Grant A. Cahoon. Sergeant Eldon H. Caldwell. Corporal Raymond B. Christie. Flight Officer Richard M. Christie. Flight Sergeant Edmund C. Crabtree. Gunner Franklin B. Curlis. Private Lauren D. Davidson. Sergeant Arthur C. Davis. Warrant Officer Second Class Lawrence W. Davies. Flight Officer Thomas R. Forsyth. Corporal Merton B. Franklin. Private Martin E. Goebel. Pilot Officer Elmer J. Flagin. Pilot Officer Ezra M. Hansen. Pilot Officer Milton W. Hansen. Gunner Lawrence A. Harwood. Flight Officer Charles B. Haslam. Flight Officer Paul W. Henderson. Pilot Officer Frederick H. Henniger. Flight Sergeant Lloyd E. Holland. Flight Lieutenant Eldon E. Curl, Distinguished Flying Cross. Warrant Officer Second Class Joseph F. Long. Pilot Officer Douglas T. Levitt. Private George L. Lightfoot. Private First Class Charles R. Libert, Purple Heart. Pilot Officer Wayne E. Libert. Flight Officer Merlin M. Matkin. Sergeant Philip K. Matkin. Sergeant Leslie J. McMurray. Sergeant Peter J. M. Marman. Rifleman George W. Rawlings. Pilot Officer Dallas R. Robinson. Private Leslie Schufert. Sapper George H. Sheck. Flight Officer Robert J. Sheen. Flight Sergeant Seth M. Thomas. Sergeant George P. Tyson. Lance Corporal Augustus W. Whitten. Bombardier John W. Wiley. Flight Officer DeVoe Wolf.
In Flanders fields the poppies blow, between the crosses row on row, that mark our place, and in the sky the larks so bravely singing fly, scarce heard amid the guns below.
We are the dead short days ago. We lived at dawn, saw sunset glow, loved and were loved, and now we lie in Flanders field.
Take up our quarrel like a foe, from famine hand to his throat, pillage be yours, so hold it high. If ye break faith with us who die, you shall not sleep though poppies grow in Flanders fields.
We assemble today to solemnly remember and pay our respects to comrades whose death we mourn, but whose spirits still live. May we, as citizens and members of the Royal Canadian Legion, be charged anew with the full sense of our duties and responsibilities to our country and our organization. May we ever strive to uphold the principles of unselfish service which led us to serve God and country in war and peace, and may we continue to serve even unto death. They shall not grow old, as we who are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we shall remember them. We shall remember them.
Hooray! Stand down, please. Hooray! Six.
Lord, we thank you for our veterans, for their willingness to risk all so we could live in peace. May we find the honor and recognition they deserve. We pray their physical, spiritual, and psychological wounds will be healed. Bring peace to those who mourn and eternal rest for those who have passed on. Amen. We will lay the wreaths now. On behalf of the Motherhood of Canada, Judith DeJorland. On behalf of Canada, Ed Stapleton. The Government of Canada, Corporal Ryan Hodge. Town of Cardston, Mayor Maggie Crowan. Cardston County, Reeve Jim Bester. Royal Canadian Legion, Gerald Scott. On behalf of the Canadian Armed Forces, Gordon Brinkhurst.
Auxiliary, Val Jensen. On behalf of the RCMP, Constable Brian Ash. Canadian Border Services, Mike Gregson. Cardston County Emergency, Danny Melvin. Corrections Canada, Cody Bevins. Hong Kong Veterans, Cynthia Mallinson. Korean Veterans, Robert Bicel. Fraternal Order of Free Masonry, Worshipful Brother Tobias Terrell. Lions Club, Lil Quan. Cardston High School, Dallin Webb. Would somebody else like to lay on behalf of the Cardston High School? Leonard Nickel, for grandfather Leonard Nickel. He's not here, do you want to lay for him? Cody Bevins for Alfred Gales. Blaine and Chandra Bunage for the father Alvin Bunage. Girl Guides. The Mountain View Cub Scouts. Does anyone else wish to lay a wreath? we'd like to thank everybody for coming out today, and let's not forget.